Hi again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of RV Business Capital Talk, sponsored by Excel. I'm Rick Kessler. With me, as always, is Sherman Goldenberg, and joining the two of us today is Mike Happe. Mike, of course, is the president and CEO of Winnebago Industries. And Mike, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today.
It's always good to be with you.
Thank you. We're recording this kind of almost a pivotal time, I guess, in the 2024 calendar year. We just coming off of the Hershey RV show. Next week starts the Elkhart RV open house for 4 days of dealer interactions. We're going to get to that, Mike, but Sherman and I were talking before we hit the record button with you, and that is you are 8 years in to your role with Winnebago. To say that there's been a little bit of change at Winnebago over those 8 years would be a pretty severe understatement. What do you reflect on those 8 years? How has the company changed so drastically under you?
Well, Rick, first of all, I want to point out that while I've had the opportunity to lead the change is obviously only executed by a broad and valued team around me. So I want to give credit to everybody at Winnebago Industries who has helped us to evolve since my time here. Listen, we just come to work every day trying to make the organization, Winnebago Industries, stronger culturally for our employees, stronger in the market, serving our dealer partners and our end customers, and then obviously as a public company, stronger financially, so that our shareholders can get a good return and we can reinvest our profits back into the business to keep the flywheel spinning positively in the future. But as you guys have seen and we've talked before, we've really tried to build that differentiated premium branded outdoor recreation company. We recognize that we have some large, high volume, cost competitive customers that have a good deal of market share in particularly the RV industry. And we needed to take a different path. And the Winnebago brand is obviously just an iconic, strong legacy brand. But, the other two RV brands that we've added to the portfolio since then, obviously Grand Design has been just a home run of a company since, it was started now a dozen or so years ago. And since we bought it in 2016, and then Newmar's just a special brand as well on the motorized side of the business. So you add to that some of the diversification in the marine industry that we've done with Chris-Craft and Barletta, and some investment here recently into our power systems adjacency with Lithionics battery systems. We feel that we're a better company today. We've got an awful lot to work on, though. I mean, we're not perfect by any means. There's a lot more runway in front of us, and we just have to wake up every day and put one foot in front of the other and try to serve our customers well. And that's what we're trying to do.
It almost looks, Mike, like you've utilized this market, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, slowdown industry-wide, nationwide, to your advantage by stepping it up.
Well, a couple of thoughts come to mind, Sherm, as you ask that question. I'm not afraid to use the word slowdown. In fact, I think you'll find me to be pretty realistic about market conditions. Now, I'm optimistic about the long-term prospects of the RV lifestyle. I am 100% confident that this industry is going to pivot to another upcycle in the future, and we'll do tremendous volume years down the road. As more and more people decide to buy, new RVs and get into the lifestyle. But we're also realistic. I mean, we're battling some, tougher market conditions today, as are, other OEMs and dealers, and we're trying to do the right things, during this particular down cycle. And that is, take care of our employees, do the right thing by our dealer partners, try to serve our customers well, both if they want to buy something new, but if they're a current customer, by taking care of them in the aftermarket. So I think a down cycle for companies in the RV industry is a test of your discipline you know, to manage your assets and your expenses well, but to also find ways to stay on the offense. You know, we want to continue to bring new products to the market. We need to sharpen the pencil at times on the affordability of some of our products, given that's where customers are very focused on themselves today. But you know, we haven't curled up in the fetal position with our three, you know, with our three RV brands. Our leaders of those businesses and their teams are working hard every day, and we're taking some market share in some places, and we're treading water in some other places. But regardless, we feel pretty optimistic about the future. We just got to get through, you know, this current trough and be disciplined, and we're going to be very competitive and very healthy in the future.
I definitely want to ask you about one of those leadership changes most recently, and that's Chris West, of course. But as you were talking, I found it almost, I don't know if irony is the right word, but we could be talking right now while the Fed is actually announcing some sort of rate reduction, you know, God willing, right. Lord willing. Is that the first domino to fall? Is that what we need to see happen before we can finally emerge from the downturn?
Well, it certainly wouldn't hurt, Rick, if the Fed started to cut rates. It's been 4 years since, you know, the Fed cut rates. They've been raising rates for most of the last, you know, 3 years. And I think it has made a difference in a number of ways, as you well know. And certainly retail customers feel it when they do retail financing on their purchases. That monthly payment is higher because of that interest rate, you know, being higher. Dealers are feeling it as well, and they have for the last couple of years. The costs of carrying inventory are higher. And so any rate adjustments downward by the Fed and the consequent, you know, cascading of lower retail and inventory financing rates will be a positive. Now, I will be honest with you, and I think most of my peers agree with me, it's going to take several cuts and, you know, probably, you know, a couple hundred basis points of rate cuts over the next, let's say 15, 16 months, I think, to really get the consumer, you know, more comfortable with, you know, buying new products at a stronger volume level. But hey, in order to get the second, third, and fourth rate cut, you got to get the first rate cut, and we hope that's what happens, you know, this week for sure.
Yeah.
Back to the leadership change that you asked about. We did announce a change here recently on the Winnebago branded business here at the company. We promoted Chris West, who has been with our company for almost 8 years, as I speak now, to lead our Winnebago branded RV business, along with a small specialty vehicles business we have underneath the Winnebago branded umbrella. Chris has been our Senior Vice President of Enterprise Operations for the last 8 years. He's led our manufacturing and supply chain strategies. He's led centers of excellence around employee safety and product quality, business excellence, and continuous improvement. Chris is no stranger to our company. He's no stranger to the industry. Chris has worked for years with some of the biggest suppliers in the industry from a strategic sourcing standpoint. He's been a strong partner to Don Clark at Grand Design and to Casey Tubman at Newmar as they've tried to run, you know, their respective RV businesses. And Chris was also my integration manager and executive sponsor for our Barletta pontoon acquisition that we made about 3 years ago. So Chris is very experienced. This will be a great developmental experience for Chris, but his skill set fits well as we try to ensure that the Winnebago brand, which is really our flagship brand historically, we want that to be a very healthy business. And we've got some things to work on there. And Chris will come in and apply his skills, and I'm really confident about the positive impact that he and his team will have on the business.
You've reminded me of one of the questions that was on our mind talking before we got on this. You're in a vantage point where you're looking at both the RV and the marine market from the inside markets, plural.
Yeah.
And what do you see as to how they compare at this point?
Well, I think the RV industry is a little bit ahead of the marine industry in terms of its place in the cycle, meaning I think the RV industry has been bouncing along the bottom of this current cycle for a little bit longer. And the marine industry is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'll say maybe 2 to 3 quarters
Hmm.
behind the RV industry in terms of timing. There's still probably some more inventory destocking to do on the marine side in certain categories, where I actually think RV field inventory is in a pretty decent position right now. It's as historically low as it's been in about a dozen years. I think the turns have returned to roughly, historical average numbers. And we are seeing a lot of the aged inventory continue to work its way out of the channel. And I think the inventories are as fresh today as they have been probably in the last couple years. And as we head into open house next week, I'm confident we'll hear from dealers that while they may not be excited yet about growing their inventories, they're feeling a little bit better every week about the shape of their inventories as they head into fall, and then hopefully especially into the next spring selling season. So I think on the RV side, we're getting pretty close to that important pivot on retail, and then on dealer buying behavior to start hopefully the next upcycle. But we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We'll just take it a month at a time, and just make sure that again we stay disciplined, and do the right thing by our channel partners.
Rick, this would be a natural time to ask Mike about the open house, and as we approach within hours, definitely. What's Winnebago's take beforehand on the open house?
Well, let me answer that question by starting with what happened last week in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which I think was actually a really solid week for the RV industry. There was good attendance in Hershey. The weather was really good, actually, almost every day at the show, which doesn't hurt certainly, but we were encouraged by the attendance and the foot traffic at the Hershey show. We were also encouraged by both the retail sales of our three brands, but also from what we heard from competition. I think everybody is characterizing the show as a good show, all things considered, given where we're at. And in fact, there's probably a number of brands and even segments that were positive versus a year ago. I know we had several parts of our business that were actually positive against a year ago, and we showed some new products in Hershey as well. The Grand Design new motorhome, the Lineage, is at the top of that list, but we were also showing some products that had been refined for both affordability, but also from an innovation standpoint. So going into open house off of a Hershey that I think was deemed pretty decent, I think is a good thing. I think dealers are going to come in pretty balanced and realistic, but also optimistic that with Fed rate cuts, with getting the fall election behind us at some point, some certainty there as to who's in office. I anticipate we'll have very positive conversations in Elkhart next week. There may not be a lot of ordering at this point, but I think there'll be a lot of curiosity about what OEMs have in terms of product, some of the fall programs that we're showing, and just a general spirit of, hey, how do we work together when the market does break the positive way in the next 6 to 9 months, and make sure that we realize a good upside curve here soon.
Mike, I'm curious. You're not the only manufacturer telling us that they're not expecting a whole lot of business activity during open house. Are obviously the dealers, and rightfully so, don't want to carry a lot of inventory over the non-selling winter months, if that's their case. But are they also conditioned now where you're able to get them product pretty quickly once they do order it?
I think that at the present time, they are conditioned that OEMs can react relatively quickly. I think it depends on the type of product you're making and how the OEMs run their manufacturing operations. But listen, we added as an industry a lot of capacity during the COVID periods to get to that 600,000 unit level that we reached at the peak of COVID. And with volume being probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 55% of that number right now, there is a lot of capacity in the industry. I've got plants at our businesses that are certainly not running at full rate or full production. And we'll take an order if they put an order for something they want delivered 3 months from now, we'll take it. if they give us an order on something they want as fast as we can make it, we'll take it as well. And we'll try to deliver it as fast as we can. So, we'd certainly rather have a larger bank of orders in terms of just making production to order. Open production, has risk to it when you take on that strategy. But I think next week's going to be a positive week. I really do. I think the conversations are going to be positive. Listen, as you guys both well know, there's a lot of experience in this industry on cycles. People have ridden through them before. They've ridden back into positive cycles before. I think there'll be a lot of conversation about how we can move forward positively and productively, as opposed to any paranoia, that we have to prepare against another step change down. I think we're hoping that isn't the case and planning for better days ahead.
Very good.
Well, one thing I noticed, as we prepare to wind up here, in July, you had I'm looking at my notes here, Camp Winnebago owner rally, and 550 units, about 1,400 people. To me, this speaks of the actual vitality of the market throughout this whole sequence of events here economically. It was a pretty strong owner rally, wasn't it?
I tell you what, Sherm, we've had 3 strong owner rallies in the last couple months. We had the Newmar owners rally out west. We had the Winnebago rally in its traditional place in North Iowa in Forest City. And then just recently, the Grand Design National Rally was held in Indiana. And all 3 of those rallies were really healthy in terms of the number of rigs that showed up, the customers and their attitudes. I continue to be amazed at the loyalty and the passion that Winnebago, Grand Design, and Newmar customers have for our brands, and really have for the RV lifestyle in total. So, boy, if you ever want to get a jolt of energy in this business, if you're feeling down and out, about kind of, how hard things are at the present moment, go spend some time, out camping and out RVing, or, in our case, out on the water, on boats as well. And when you start talking to people who love the lifestyle, you realize that there are blue skies ahead of the industry, and we'll get through, some of the tougher times we've been traveling through. So I'm really pleased with all 3 rallies that our teams were a part of here, and it just, it excites our teams, about what's possible going forward.
Yeah.
Well put, Rick. Are we there?
Yep. I think we should sign off. Mike, absolutely. Thank you for your time once again. And I also want to thank Eric Sell for their continued sponsorship. Hey, Mike, we'll see you next week.
I'll see you guys at Open House. Take care.
Thank you.